Hey, if you've ever wondered about overdrive or distortion pedals and using them with ukulele, this video is for you. I know it's not natural, I know it's not necessarily what the ukulele was made to do, but we're going to try it out today. Just try stuff, right? So I have my pedal board set up here. What you were just listening to is the Soul Food, the Electro-Harmonic Soul Food. I'll turn that off. We'll talk about everything on here first, and we'll talk about the setup that I have here as well, so you know what you're hearing, what uke you're hearing, an amp, and all that kind of stuff. So first, the pedals we'll look at today. I took several pedals off my pedal board and put these four overdrive and distortion pedals on. I don't usually have four overdrive or distortion pedals on here, but I do play rock and pop music with a band, and I always have one or two on my board. But we'll look at all four today. We have the Electro-Harmonics Soul Food. We have the Superbadass, MXR Superbadass Distortion. Fun name. The Earthquaker devices Plumes, and the Boss Distortion DS1. Now, as far as the pedal board is concerned, outside of those four pedals, this vocal pedal is just on my board. I'm not using it today. The signal first goes from the ukulele into the pedal board, and then goes into this Fishman tone deck. The only effect I'm using on the Fishman tone deck is the preamp section, which is the volume. You can kind of see that there as the light comes on, just to boost the signal of the ukulele and let it ring true through all the pedals and get a good signal for all the pedals to the amp. And then the compressor, I always put on some compression on the ukulele. It's a soft knee compression on this, so it's made for acoustic instruments, just to balance out the signal a little bit more. And it's not compressing it that much, actually. I believe the orange light on it it's decreasing the signal by 6 decibels. Green is 3. So you'll see it as I first attack. Maybe it's coming down 6 decibels, and then evening out 3, and then it goes off. So it's just the attack. It's really compressing a little bit. I'm not using any other effects. I'm not going to use the delay here. Maybe we might use the octaver a little bit to show you how that combines with the pedals, the dirt pedals. And of course I should probably tune first too. I'll use a little sharp. There we go. And I really like that polytune as well. It's nice and bright, especially when you're outside playing in sunny places. It's sometimes hard to see a tuner, and that's extra bright, and I've always liked it. As far as ukes go, I'm playing a Kala. What is this? I even forget what model it is, but it's a acoustic electric, of course. It's got the Kala pickup here, and then that's just going to the pedal board. Pedal board's going to the Vox Valvetronics amp. I think this is VT20. It's a 20 amps, and it's fairly clean. I have everything on the Fender setting. It simulates other amps. The other thing I have on the clean Fender setting, I have the volume up pretty high, but the gain down low, so it's not distorting it at all. It's a clean signal. I'll let you hear what that sounds like. There's a little bit of reverb I put on the amp, just because it's always a little bit of reverb always sounds good. I should note that I also on the ukulele am playing a low G instead of a high G, so that G, C, E, A, you'll hear that it's a low G instead of a high G. I just think when you're playing with distortion, it's better to have that full range. With lots of times with distortion, having a full spectrum of sound instead of a high G and then going down and then back up again with the strings doesn't give you as much to play with as a low G does. So if you've ever thought about trying low G, I think especially with distortion and overdrive pedals is the time to try it. And then from there, it's a Sennheiser mic, just a cab mic, dynamic mic, coming out and into the computer behind me. I'm being mic'd here too. I'll try to be sure to mute the mic that's picking up my vocals, my voice, when I'm playing actually on this video. And now that I think we've basically gone over the signal path, I think we can go into trying to figure out how these pedals sound. I will say up front that often on my pedal board I keep the Soul Food and the Superbadass Distortion on the pedal board. Usually those are my preferences. Those are my favorites. I think they by the end of this video, maybe they're your favorites too, but I'll try to be not unbiased, and go through all of them the same. I'll start with the Soul Food. The Electro-Harmonic Soul Food is based on the Centaur Klon, which is a pedal that came out in the 90s that since has kind of blown up, gotten kind of big. If you try to buy one now, I think used, it's several $1,000s. It's sought after. There have been plenty of copies that have been made from that, clones of that, and this is one of them. It's their take on the kind of Klon sound. And what I like about it is it can get very clean. I don't want to say the word transparent, but I think it's fairly transparent in that maybe not the EQ is transparent when you turn on the dirt pedal, but I can make it sound when the pedal's on the same as when the pedal's off. So I'll give you a demonstration of that. Let me turn down the drive all the way, maybe the volume to noon, and the treble to noon. Here's my clean sound. And then I'll kick on the pedal. Maybe there's a little volume boost there. So I think I got it set pretty much to where if I click it on and off with my foot while I play, I don't think you'll be able to tell whether it's being kicked on or not. Maybe you can tell a little bit, but maybe if I messed around with the settings a little bit more, maybe you'd not hear it as much. But basically, it can get very clean. So you can treat this like a clean boost. So now the distortion you're hearing is just coming from the amp being distorted. So when I have it off, then if I want some more volume, so that's what I like about the Soul Food when compared to these other pedals, is it can get clean and give you a clean boost. But generally, I like having it set to something like this, where this is my clean. And it just adds a little bit of sparkle and breakup to that signal. It does the Tom Petty thing really well. So lots of blues and stuff like that. But it can get pretty distorted too. You see it's turned up pretty high. There's no feedback here. Even letting go of the strings, there's no feedback. That's what I like about the Soul Food. Moving on, we got the MXR Superbadass distortion. You'll see immediately that whereas the Soul Food is an overdrive pedal, this is a little bit more gain on tap, a little more hard clipping, although not necessarily hard clipping. It's a smooth distortion. The MXR Superbadass distortion is made to sound like a amp in a box. It's made to sound like a cranked, in this case, a cranked Marshall amp. This kind of cranked British tone from the 70s. So you might be able to get like Led Zeppelin tones out of it or things like that. But it really, because of the EQ on the pedal here, this is bass, mid, and treble, and then the distortion output, you really can get a wide range of stuff. It does not get clean though. I'll turn the distortion down all the way. Here's my clean. Maybe I'll make the EQ straight up too. Mostly. So it just gives a little crackle on especially on the front end. So I guess it does like the Tom Petty stuff good too. I'm not sure if it's coming through on whatever device you're listening to at home, but this, I often like to roll back the bass a little bit knob because I can really hear the pick attack and muddiness of the ukulele. So I turn that back pretty far, and then I boost the treble a little bit, which is the settings you saw when I first turned it on. But where I like this set usually is a little more distortion. It crackles up a bit more. Turn up the distortion a bit more, again, it's not feeding back, and this has a lot of distortion on tap. So if I turn it up too much, you'll hear it feed back immediately. If I wanted to distort that much, it'd have to be farther away from the amp, or maybe stuff some shirts in the hole or something like that. But don't necessarily want to do all that. And I don't need that much gain, that much distortion. This is enough, actually, when it plays, you'll hear it. Now I should certainly say that the ukulele is different from a guitar in that often with distortion, what sounds good on distortion is lower octaves, like when you have the 2 extra strings from the guitar, as well as more sustain. So when you're working with a piezo pickup instead of electric pickups from an electric guitar, you don't get all that sustain. With the ukulele, you play for about 5 or 6 seconds, the sound is completely gone, versus a electric guitar, much longer, and so that distortion is carrying through, the sound is carrying through the whole time, versus if I were to distort this ukulele, after that 5 or 6 seconds, all that's left after that is the feedback. Which sometimes feedback's fun to make. Fun to make that sound sometimes. So what I like about this though is you can get a little heavier sound as long as you keep playing, and maybe you don't turn towards the amp to make the feedback, or cover up. Often a trick is that you cover up the piezo pickup a little bit with your wrist when you're not playing, and then you don't get any of that feedback. So you can get a lot more crunch, a lot more heavier distortion sounds out of it. So you're hearing it crackle a bunch more, which is what I like about that kind of amp in a box type. So that's the Superbadass distortion. I like it a lot too. Next pedal I'll talk about, the Earthquaker Devices Plumes. I like a lot as well. It's based on a tube screamer circuit, which I think came out in the late 70s as well. Lots of this came out in the late 70s when distortion was being put into pedals versus not necessarily just on amps. And so this tube screamer, this Plumes, is based on a tube screamer. The original tube screamer Stevie Ray Vaughan made famous by playing it all the time. This one's based on that. They got 3 modes here. I'm going to keep it in mode 3, which is the more tube screamer mode that they have here. I'm going to turn the gain down to start and keep the tone pretty much at 12 o'clock, and we'll see what this sounds like. Funny, I've never had that happen before. There we go, there's the distortion. breaks up a lot more. It also has a lot more gain on tap, so it can go up. Again, I'm close to the amp. I hear a little bit of floor noise. So floor noise meaning that I can hear a little bit of the noise that is amplified that's always there in the electrical signal. Because when you increase the volume or increase the gain on the ukulele itself, you're also increasing it on the floor noise, on all the noise that's always there in electrical signals. So you're getting some of that noise in the background too. So there's a little bit of hiss, a little bit of crackle in the amp. Maybe you don't hear it at home, but it's there as you turn it up. But this has a lot more gain. You can play. So that has a lot more gain. It's an overdrive. It's an overdrive versus the Superbadass is a distortion, and the Soul Food is an overdrive as well. Although Electro-Harmonics, I believe they list it under distortion as well. And it's all, it depends on what you call. It's only what depends on what you call it. It's overdrive, distortion, fuzz, anything that is dirt. Makes starts crunching your signal and increasing the gain and starts clipping it. It's up to the manufacturer what they say in their marketing or whatever. But this is technically an overdrive, again based on the Tube Screamer. What I like about the Plumes as well is that lots of the Earthquaker devices pedals, they put in a momentary switch, whereas these two pedals here, the Soul Food is a switch that is latching and clicks. So you hear it click as well as the distortion. This one is a soft. It goes on and you can hear there's not necessarily a click, but it goes on and off, and it's a soft touch pedal. But you can also play and step on it and hold it and then let go, and it'll turn off as well. It's a momentary switch as well. So if there's just a part of a song that has just a little bit of distortion, and then you want to have it come on and then come off, you can do that as well. So let's give that a try. No distortion right now. So I'm not clicking on and off. I'm just stepping and then pulling off because it's doing that momentary thing. But it'll also just turn on and stay on and turn on and stay off. It's a smart switch in that way. So that's the Plumes. Last is the Boss Distortion DS1. I think again came out in the late 70s, almost 1980. As I think it was a response to all the pedals that were being made at the time, the Tube Screamer and other stuff. And they said, let's make something that has a lot of distortion, but is still very smooth. Not a fuzz, still very smooth distortion. A fuzz starts to sound like Velcro. All that hard clipping happens and hits the rails and starts to sound like a chainsaw or Velcro being pulled apart. That's what fuzz does, which I'm not showing any fuzz today. So this will be highly distorted, even with the distortion all the way down. But let's see how it sounds. To get harmonics out of the chucking. So that's the DS1. It can get more distorted, of course. Sometimes you like to roll back the tone. What I'm not crazy about on the Boss DS1 is the lack of volume that's there. As you see, the level knob, which is here in the middle, was turned up all the way there. Even when the distortion was all the way down, I still have to be at 3 o'clock. in order to match the level of the ukulele in the first place. So not a bunch of level or a lot of volume on there that there is on some of the others, especially the Superbadass. It has a lot of output and level on it for you to use. So that's I guess, some of the pedals that can be used for distortion or overdrive. They're pretty iconic pedals as well, or they're built on iconic pedals, I should say. One thing I haven't gone over is how to combine these pedals together, which I often do. So a good, for instance, is if you're playing something that already has overdrive on it, like the Soul Food. And then you get to a part of the song there where you want a little bit more distortion or drive, you can turn on something else. So you can turn it off and on. You can see even with both on and hands off the strings, it's not feeding back. Even if I turn it up a bit more, it's fine. I sometimes will use this for maybe 80s distortion on some 80s songs, like. So that's that distortion. You can also combine, that's overdrive and distortion. You can combine any of these to give whatever flavor you want. Sometimes I'll even use just the boost. Sometimes just having a boost, which on this Fishman, this is just a boost. I have it set to 10 decibel boost. So here's my regular signal. So you'll hear it's just a louder signal, just made it louder, didn't put up any of the gain. And if you run that into one of these, it increases the gain as well. So if I have the Soul Food on and then boost the signal before it gets to the Soul Food, it'll distort it as well. It'll take that signal amplifier and it's making it clip more. So sometimes you only need just another clean boost on your pedal, on your pedal board. You could just have a clean boost into your distortion, and it'll distort it even more. Now this is where it might get a little crazy, is if you start stacking really high gain pedals on top of each other. You'll get that feedback that sometimes happens with ukulele or any acoustic instrument. This would happen with acoustic guitar too. So again, sometimes higher distortion and fuzz is lost on ukulele a little bit. I'm not saying you can't do it. Do it, have fun, do anything you want. But sometimes it's lost just because you don't have those lower octaves to be able to really chug it and use the fuzz or the high distortion like you normally hear on some songs. You also don't have that sustain that a instrument with electric pickups on like an electric guitar would have. So, we can maybe emulate that with the T-Rex Quint here, which is an octaver pedal that adds a octave up, octave down, or a fifth above. I'm just going to use the octave down. So here's my regular signal, clean signal. Let me boost that up a little bit. So it sounds like a bass is maybe playing with me, but it's just doubling every string. It's doubling an octave down, so you can hear it when I play one string at a time. And then if you throw some maybe distortion, let's throw some distortion. how meaty that is. Let's even turn it up a bit more. So that's combining pedals. You can add boost pedals, octave pedals. You can add, anything. I have several pedals here, different effects that you can research yourself. Try to figure out if you like using chorus, phaser, whatever else too, delay. But mix and match and see what you think. This video is going to be mostly about overdrive and distortion. So that's what we're focusing on today. So that's basically it. Overdrive and distortion. Give it a try. Use it with ukulele. Thanks.